And in my family, back in the 60s, the anatomical stuff was never discussed. Nah. We literally heard the story about birds and bees. Mom said, well, there are birds and there are bees. I remember thinking, I never seen this on a bird or a bee. Try the birds and bees story on a small child nowadays. Very advanced they are. That kid will look right up at you. How about birds who want to be bees, or bees in a bird's body, or birds dressed up like bees? And in my family, the boundaries between the sexes were very definite. There was no crossing over. Anything sensitive or vulnerable or emotional was not tolerated from little boys. Crying was a feminine privilege. My dad would say, boy, I'll give you something to cry about. I'm not going to raise any little sissy gay boy. My dad is so homophobic, he won't eat a hot dog.
Hey everybody, Mark Lundholm here from the Mark Lundholm Show. Ready to go? We are. Episode number 212. Why? Because it's 212. The Fertility, Futility, and Life episode. Fertility, futility, and life? That's what you said, Mark? Yes. Big topic. Not a big deal. It is a huge pleasure to talk to the guest I have today. Let me tell you a story about this young lady. When she was about 15 years old, she was in trouble for skipping school. She cut school and went to the beach, Santa Cruz, California. She went to the beach and decided that she was going to go with a bunch of friends instead of going to school. And she got caught. They got a parking ticket. She said she'd pay the ticket because that's the kind of person she is. So she didn't want to write a check. She had a checking account when she was a teenager. And she didn't want to write a check because her mom would find out that she wrote a check, right? And she didn't want to write a check for the amount because it was a fine for parking tickets. Now, she called me in a panic, said, what do I do? What do I do? I said, listen, I'm not going to lie to your mother. Her mother and I were divorced at the time. I said, I'm not going to lie to your mother. I'm just going to not have any secrets from her. You got to tell her. Dad, I can't tell her. I can't. My wife at the time said, well, tell her to get a money order. Just tell her to get a money order. Send it in and pay the ticket. I said, don't help her. Don't help her do this. Don't help her circumvent the truth and keep the secret from her. What are you doing here? You're going to have kids someday. She goes, I like her. I like your daughter. Come on, get a money order. Weeks go by. I don't know what happened. 3 years go by. We're at Courtney's wedding. Courtney is my daughter. She's the one who got the ticket. We're at the wedding, and I said to her, hey, listen, whatever happened with that speeding ticket? She goes, oh, I got a money order. Women always know. They know about other women. They know about other women they don't know. But here's one of the strongest things I could say about this female process is they are not quitters. They're stronger. They're more available to suffer through the pain, to go through what they need to go through. They make children possible. The reason we're talking today is my daughter, Courtney, has some things to tell you about that particular topic. Fertility, futility, life, survival. There's a whole bunch of stuff that this lady has been through, not to mention the split of her parents when she was very young and had no choice in it. Now, because we know that splits happen and people get divorced, there are no ex-kids when that happens. They're not a line item. They're not real estate. They're not a bargaining chip. Courtney never became that for her mother and I. We're still friends, Sharon, my ex-wife. And this isn't about my family, but about families. Starting a family, a big deal. Raising a family, bigger deal. Staying in a family that's helping, raising, starting again. Grandkids down the road, bigger deal. Now, at this point in my life, I have 3 kids. This one is very special. Courtney is her name. When she was really, really little, she and I went to the movies. And we were sitting on the last end of the aisle. At the end of the aisle there, we were sitting. We were going to take the last two seats, and I thought, no, because if we take the last two seats and leave an empty seat on the end, we can put our snacks there, our popcorn bowl, the whole thing, right, in the movie theater. So she's little. She's on the inside because that's the chivalrous thing to do. Males, if you're walking a woman down the sidewalk, you're on the street side. She's on the safe side. Don't forget. We go to the movies. I'm on the outside. My kid, who's probably 4, she's on the inside. And there's an empty seat on my right. We're looking at the theater. All of a sudden, the guy comes down. He's got popcorn, candy, hot dogs. He's got a soda. He's juggling all this stuff in front of his big, big body. And he says, hey, anyone sitting in that seat? And I looked up at him. First thought wrong. Damn, why you got to pick on us? Why can't you go, he's a big dude. The chair ain't as big as this guy is. And he's got all his stuff. First thought wrong. Move along, Jack. I said, no one's sitting in that seat. Courtney looks around at him, looks at the seat and goes, Dad, couldn't he see that? What? Couldn't he see there was no one in that seat? Oh, no, that's not what he meant. Then why did he say it? I knew right then I was dealing with a person who didn't really take things like you and I hear them all the time. I've got that rampant in my family. We got a unique way to hear or see or say something. Kind of why I do what I do for a living. But Courtney also has that blonde thing going on. When she was about 19 years old, she called me crying because she had bounced a check at the bank. And that happens to people. I mean, I probably bounced, it's not my story. She bounced a check at the bank, called me crying, and she said, what do? I know I have money in there. I said, how do you know you got money in there? What's the balance? She goes, I don't know. I said, how do you know you got money? She goes, I still have checks. True story. I still have checks. So if they gave me this amount of checks, I can write that amount of checks. I said, well do you ever like balance your account during the month? She goes, what do you mean? I said, you get a statement from the bank. She goes, yeah, I get a statement from the bank. I don't ever read it. I go, how do you know how much money you got in the bank if you're going to write a check if the check's good? She goes, I still have checks. They're all good. She was 19. Now, she might be embarrassed by that story, but it's one of the things that kept me over and over in love with my kid as to the wide-eyed innocence and I just take things on faith, and I have an eye to look at somebody and hold them accountable for what they say. But I just kind of drift along sometimes and hope it goes right. There's a purity to that part of childhood that some of us lose when we're younger real quickly. And some of us as adults have trouble getting back. Growing up in my house, you didn't have any of that kind of subtle, gentle, nudging, example kind of teaching. It was really harsh. It was crack the whip. It was do what I say. It was don't ask a lot of questions. And punishments ranged from you got a beating with a wooden spoon, a metal ruler, the buckle end of the belt, that was special attention, or you got a privilege taken away, a camping trip, or you couldn't play sports that season, or you had to work every day after school at Dad's store. There was a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not even complaining about it. It was a different path. As a child, you knew there were consequences if you screwed up. Courtney, when she was little, the lady we're going to talk to in a minute, her name is Courtney Brown. I still have in my phone, because I'm a hardhead, I still have her real name in the phone because I'm her dad. Anyway, she got married and she's got a husband, but his last name is not as important as mine. And it's Brown. Courtney Brown. Brown, what can Brown do for you? Well, I'll tell you what it did for me. It took my daughter right out of my life. I would much rather have her be somebody's wife than him renting somebody's daughter. You ever been in that relationship? Have you ever been in a relationship where you're married to or dating, and you're dating somebody's daughter or son, but you don't have a partner yet? I would never settle for that again. I went through that once in my life where I was with somebody's daughter for sure. That was her identity. She's somebody's daughter. She's not this man's partner, right? I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for our kids. But a lot of times we're taught that We have to give up. We have to sacrifice everything to get this one thing. You ever thought about what kind of parent you would be before you're the parent that you are? I never considered anything about having kids while I was out there running around and spending time in my teens and 20s. And after my first divorce and Courtney's mom and I split up, I spent a lot of time single, all my 30s, up to my mid 40s. I didn't get married till I was 45 again, and I didn't have another kid till I was 48. So a little long in the tooth maybe, but I don't regret a single day. What kind of parent are you? What kind of parent do you want to be? My daughter's given a lot of thought to that, and she's doing something about it. Are you going to be the parent that your parent raised as a kid? A lot of us would say, hell no. A lot of us would say, I prefer not to. A lot of us would say, yeah, absolutely. I want to be just like my mom and dad. That's not my story, but I hear that story from people. There's nothing wrong or singularly outside the box about parenting. But what I've done is a lot of opposites. I've done the opposite of what my parents did a lot of times. I know what not to do as a father. I know what not to do as a mother. As a single dad, I kind of mom sometimes. Sometimes you got to be mom if you're a dad. Sometimes if you're a mom, you're the only dad they have. So the dysfunctional upbringing kind of thing. A lot of us are familiar with that word. Dysfunctional means the toaster ain't working right, the radiator's got a leak, or guess what? The AC, it won't go on and off. That's dysfunctional, sure. But dysfunctional, like in a family, it kind of means it ain't working out, right? Dysfunctional family. I knew that I was a problem when the Brady Bunch was my favorite because they were a mixed family. They didn't start out together. They chose to be together. And my favorite character, Alice. I really wanted to be Alice. That could say something about my sexuality or codependency. I don't know. But I liked Alice. She was the glue. I wanted to be Alice. Growing up in a dysfunctional family, we had all kinds of things to overcome. We didn't know that certain pieces of furniture could become punishment, like weapons. Weapons were in the silverware drawer. A lot of times in our family, not too many families on the block knew what a no-knock warrant was. We did. No-knock warrant? What's that, you say? What's a surprise? It's like a surprise party. No-knock warrant. It's a party for surprise. Hey, you're the surprise. They're not surprised. All the guests know you. You don't know any of the guests. It's a really weird... You didn't see that on Law & Order, did you? Our next guest is a particularly favorite person of mine on this planet. When I was 29 years old, I was laying in a motel room in Hayward, California. I put a gun in my mouth and pulled the trigger. The gun jammed. It was the single lowest day of my using cocaine, drinking, everything career. It was the last day I ever spent drunk or loaded, too. October 19th, 1988. I had a picture of this young lady on my chest at the time. When the gun jammed and I had a second to breathe and a moment to think, I looked down at the picture and I thought, I don't want to have somebody else tell this little kid what happened to her real dad. Something in me could not really pull the trigger again, ever. So I wadded up the picture. I stuffed it in a pocket of a coat I had stolen to wear during the winter. And I took all 120 pounds of me and I went off to detox that very night. About 3 a.m, I ended up in Fort Point Street in the hospital. This lady's picture literally saved my life. I say that to this day. There's a lot of reasons I didn't die. But this particular person is one of those reasons. She's a goddess. And now she wants to have kids of her own. Been married 3 years at this point, and she got a tale to tell about fertility, futility, life, disappointment, trust, faith. A lot of that going on in the couple that she's in. Jason, her husband, and Courtney Brown, my daughter. We're going to talk to her next.
The day Courtney was born, I was sober. I watched her come into this world perfect and pure. To this day, it's still the most amazing thing I've ever seen. She was premature, 5 pounds, 11 ounces. Her whole body fit between my fingertips and the crook of my elbow. I held her for hours on my chest just to listen to her breathe. I would lay her in my lap to watch her sleep or cradle her in one arm, watch her face change. When they're infants, you can hold them up against your neck and feel their heartbeat against your own skin. It was magic.
Welcome back to the Mark Lundholm Show. This is probably going to be one of those episodes where I might have trouble keeping it together. I'm usually cool, calm, collect when it comes to work stuff, rehearsal and scripts and words. Words are my thing. But today we have the opportunity to talk to some of the past here. The title of today's episode is Fertility, Futility, and Life. And as broad a topic as that sounds like, yesterday, as it turns out, was Mother's Day. Today we're going to talk about being a mom, becoming a mom, wanting to become a mom, all things mom related. As it turns out, I get to talk to today, our guest today is Courtney Brown, who was born Courtney Lundholm. Now, if that name sounds familiar, this is my daughter. And we get to talk to her today from a dad-daughter point of view, from a mom-friendly point of view, and couple other things that we're going to talk about that maybe can relate to people out there that couldn't care less about who we're related to, Courtney and I. How are you doing, lady?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, hon. Hey, happy birthday today.
Thank you. It's a very special
32 years ago. Yes, it is a very special day. And selfishly here, 32 years ago today, I was just a mess watching your mom work so hard to kind of put you in this world and making sure that you were safe and 10 fingers and 10 toes and all the healthy stuff. And there was a mild kind of grateful panic that we were getting to do this. And you came out just all in one piece and pretty and beautiful and screaming. And we were all very happy. And you are 32 years old now today. And we're going to talk about moms. Is that weird?
A little bit. Kind of crazy.
Yeah? Okay. And how is this pandemic thing affecting you right now with your work and family and your husband and what's going on?
So it's been a little bit difficult. I've had to transition from working in an office every day to now spending my day at home all day by myself. Jason's still out working. So it's been tough to go from an office life where you get to be a little bit social and interact with everybody every day to then being by yourself.
How was the transition? Like I a little bit of history here for people who, and this show goes to all kinds of people. This is, this is for everybody. Everybody's been a kid. I can start there. Not everybody even knows who their mom is, and not all of us get to be mothers. Mother is the title of probably the hardest, best, most rewarding, difficult, whole bunch of adjectives, job on the planet. But mom's basically the vessel that gets us from some kind of heaven-sent place to, feet on the earth and let's go to work and let's make some more people and let's take care of the ones we love and respect the ones maybe we don't, and everybody gets along and, all that happy stuff that we learn at where? Church for you? Books, work,
church, yeah, a little bit of everything.
Your mom and I got divorced a long time ago, and she raised you, and you have another dad, right?
I do,
and we love Mike, right?
Absolutely.
Ever since I was, ever since Mike was in the picture, it was Daddy Mike and Daddy Mark. Do you still call him Dad?
I still call him Dad, yes, and you are still Daddy Mark.
Yep, and that's as it should be, right? I mean, Mike and Sharon, your mom, they raised you, right? And a few years later, 4 or 5 years later after that, I kind of got involved and was back on my feet and stayed out of jail and stayed sober for a while and all that stuff that in the beginning wasn't easy for me and I couldn't manage, right? But you were a godsend, and I'll tell you why. For those of you who don't know either one of our stories, in 1988, the year you were born in May, and I got sober in October as a result of a suicide attempt. I put a gun in my mouth, pulled the trigger. I had a picture of you on my chest. We're going to show that picture in the episode too. But I had managed to hang on to that picture as a homeless guy, just, in a pocket, folded up, in a sock, something like that. And that was the picture I was looking at when I pulled the trigger. Now, you had nothing to do with that except that you were a very special person. And the gun jammed, and I didn't try it again. I was looking at the picture thinking, I can't do this to somebody else. I don't want somebody growing up, somebody who's brand new, having somebody have to tell her, here's what happened to your real daddy. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I couldn't do that to another person. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt like an asshole right then. Huge. Years later, you were in the audience with your mom watching a play I was doing in San Francisco. Your mom told me this. I don't even know if you know this story. But your mom told me you leaned over to her because that story is in the play, right?
That was the first time I'd heard it.
Right. And you leaned over to Mom and you said, Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had it that hard. Do you remember that? Yeah. Painful for me, right? So, as much as I want to tell you, happy birthday, you saved my life in every way, right? And I want to thank you for that on your birthday. You also were responsible since for many days of joy, many moments of wow and hope and love. I mean, this could be a 9-hour show if I just listed those and you wouldn't get to talk at all. Okay? That's how big a deal you are. In the last couple of years, since you've been married, what have you learned about your mom and dad? Mike, what have you learned about your mom and dad that you want to recreate and then what you don't want to recreate? Because you're somebody's wife now, not somebody's daughter, really.
Right.
So what are they?
So I've learned that we just, even as parents, want to be able to just support our children in anything that we can, be there for them as much as we can, try and really create a separate work and home life. I know growing up, I did have dad there, but he also traveled a lot. So it was relied on Mom to take care of Justin and I, and she kept us busy and kept us in dance and kept us occupied. But he did miss out on quite a lot, and Jason and I have talked about that. We just want to be able to have a job that hopefully we won't have to travel as much and can be part of our kids' lives as much as we can. He also comes from a divorced family, and it's just really important that we just keep the love and everything in our household.
Yeah, and you're a personal assistant to a vice president of a marketing, let's say, direction, right? And you guys sell what for a living?
We sell wine and liquor.
You sell booze is what you sell. And your dad's a recovering alcoholic. How dare you? You know what I mean?
I know. Kind of ironic.
Well, irony is at least where we're going to go today, lady. So you sell booze for a living, and your husband sells booze for a living.
He sells beer, yes.
And you guys are really great at your job.
Love our jobs.
You understand the product. You understand the process. I know you guys are really, and you're a phenomenal couple to watch. I've watched you be in love a couple of times in your life. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
And I remember the pain of something not going well and watching you go through it and letting you go through it without telling you too much how it was going to turn out, how it should have felt, how it, what everything. The art of being a parent, I think you've got a great mom and dad. I really do. I love Mike. I love Sharon, and I've watched them be there for you consistently, even when they're not there. We'd love to always be there for our kids, but even when we're not there, have they taught you something about giving you tools for when they're not there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've learned so much from them, and they've just always taught me to be strong. And, if we need anything or if I needed anything help wise, they're always there for me. And it's, they've taught me to never be afraid to come to them for anything. That has happened a few times where, you want to keep things from them or not tell them, but they've always been so supportive. And that's just the greatest thing that I can take from it is that, despite everything that's gone on, I not only have a great mom and dad, but I also have a great dad in you, and we've rebuilt our relationship, and I've got the best of both worlds.
Well, and I'm lucky to say that when you married Jason, the wedding was beautiful. It was really, you invited all the right people. It was big. You guys know a lot of people. One of the things I know about the Astorino family and Sharon's family of origin and tons of people. You're very social, and I see pictures of you on social media now, and I'm going to say this joke even though you're my daughter, okay? I'm a comedian. This is what I do. But I see the pictures of you guys, Rob, Sandy, their 3 daughters, all their friends, your cousins, your brother, Justin, who was made, conceived, and developed in production by Mike and Sharon, right? I see you guys all together, and it's blonde, it's white, it's like Hitler's wet dream. Every picture you've ever taken has a bunch of white folk and glasses of alcohol.
Always.
It makes me giggle so hard. You want to talk about ironic. And even the wedding itself was so calm and so wonderful. And there's all these people that know each other, and there's not a lot of sanity in that family. There's a lot of busted up in the family. Would you say that's true?
I could agree with that. Yeah.
There's a lot of dysfunction. Everybody comes from a family that's not together anymore, and we've been married. I've been married a couple of times, and your mom's been married a couple of times, and
right.
and your in-laws have been married a couple of times. So what's the point of getting married, right? I was sitting there watching you get married, thinking, well, this is the first one, right? This is what we do in this family.
We want it to be a different statistic. We're going to prove to ourselves that we can do it.
Okay, so far so good. But that wedding was so fun to watch you guys thrive in the environment from 2 families who really love you. And I don't know that I've been to too many weddings where it was that obvious. Your family, me included, Julie, she was there. My wife. I used to be married to her, right? And Grayson, your brother, right? He just turned 13 in March. He loved being a part of that. I know you're a good sister to him. There's a lot of love there. Wouldn't you like that to continue? Wouldn't you like to be involved in that process?
Yeah. 100%.
I know you're working on something right now. What is it?
So we are working on trying to have our own family. We've been working on that for well over a year now. Actually, I think it's been a total of 2 since we've started everything. But it's definitely been a difficult process.
Well, and difficult, we're talking about in vitro, yeah?
Correct.
And we're talking about harvesting eggs and implanting and all the technical terms, right? What's the latest? And then we'll work backwards. How's that? Are you okay talking about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted you on because I love you and I know you're a force of nature. But I also know that you have a message to send even in conversation to people out there who are in similar spots or are moving toward the similar spot that you're going to talk about next?
Right. I just want to let people know too. I don't share the story to have anyone feel sorry for me or, that sort of thing. It's just to bring awareness. Not a lot of people talk about it. Infertility is not a bad word, and it doesn't define who you are as a person, but people somehow feel ashamed of it. Like they've done something wrong, like it's taken away a piece of them. And not a lot of people talk about it. But since I've opened up and been able to share a little bit of my story as much as I can with everybody, I've had one or two people that I had no idea were struggling with it, friends of mine that have come out to me and said, thank you so much for opening up and talking about it, because you want to know that you're not alone. There's 1 in 8 couples that suffer from this in the U.S.
And when you say infertility, you're talking about not being able to have a child naturally, conceive naturally. That was the best way to say it. Conceive naturally. Just for a second here, I want to draw a parallel to people who have a mental illness, people who are addicts, people who there's a condition physically that we can't get past, or we're not liable to or embarrassed about if we start talking about it, but nothing's missing in here. There's nothing. We get this idea if we have some kind of physical condition. Let's call it a condition, right? Safe
call
word
it a
for you?
disease too.
Okay, a disease. Let's say the word disease. That means there's something wrong with us, or there's something missing. We're missing something that is normal, most people have, or don't suffer from. I don't see you doing a lot of suffering right now today on your birthday. But I know in the past we've had phone calls where I know it was devastating to find out at some level I can't conceive naturally, right? What did that feel like at the time? So that people out there know they got somebody who's speaking for them.
That was really tough at the time. When Jason and I first started dating, I wasn't quite sure I wanted kids. And I say that with an open heart and just, I might get a little emotional.
It's your show, hon. This is all okay.
I didn't know if I wanted to be a mom. I didn't picture myself being a mom. I wasn't one of those kids that grew up that wanted to be a mom so bad. I may have had baby dolls and everything, and I took care of my little brother, but I never thought that's my goal in life, is to be a mom. So for me, I struggled with that a little bit. And then we talked about it, and Jason has always wanted to start a family. And I realized that, you know what, I'm here to do more in this life, and I want to create a family and show them the love that I grew up with and that sort of thing. And then we started trying, and it took us over a year and nothing. And so we went to a fertility doctor and found out that I would probably never be able to conceive a child naturally. And that was devastating. I felt like maybe I was being punished for something, for saying earlier that maybe I didn't want kids, and now look at the process that I would have to get through to have a child or have a family. And it's devastating to realize that, it was something that I couldn't control, but it was my fault that I couldn't give my husband the family that he wanted.
Sure. The physical part of it is a natural condition for Courtney. It's part of her chemical makeup. It's who she is. And there's a part of I know as a drug addict, hey, I'm going to use chemicals over truthful and spiritual and helpful. I feel awful about that. And maybe it's my fault. Maybe there's a fault in there that says, you're not hurting other people with what you do, Court. Addicts and people in recovery, we like to pound our chests at times. I'm not one of them, but we like to pound our chests at times about how I overcame all this stuff. Like, well, I kind of did it to myself too. That is not the case with infertility. and that, but that mindset that says I'm being paid back for saying, "Oh, I don't really want kids," or maybe I don't want kids, or whatever, and I'm kind of doing this to my husband as well, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the anger that was going on too at the time. Tell me about the anger you felt.
I was definitely angry. You always think, why would this happen to me? Or you never think it's going to happen to you. I didn't know much about infertility at all, but I just got thrown right into it. And it is definitely a process and something that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. It's tough mentally, physically, emotionally. It's a process. So.
And I know, and I know you know, because you've done some work on this, that it doesn't define you as a woman. It doesn't define you as a human being.
Absolutely not.
It does. So how did Jason? What was Jason going through when you hear the news? And no matter how you guys are passionate and connected and loyal and intimate, it's just not going to happen, right? What was going on with him?
It's a struggle. He had a really difficult time. He had a hard time trying to be strong to support me because he knew it was going to be really difficult on me, just trying to keep it together for himself. We had to really sit down and talk about it and open up to each other to realize that this wasn't just about me anymore and that this was about us, and I needed the support from both of us. But if he was struggling, I needed to know that too, because everybody always checks in on me. How's Courtney doing? How's Courtney doing? Nobody ever asks how Jason's doing, but he's going through just as much.
Yeah, and there's got to be, listen, I've been through probably 19 different kinds of relationships that are intimate, connected, using, being used. Listen, I'm 61 years old. It's not my first trip around the sun. But as a father to a daughter, I want to tell you that I watched you through this. I watched you go through this with honesty. And that was the biggest thing to me is, how the hell did she learn that? How did she learn to talk about, hey, I'm angry right this second. I'm really devastated. I'm in a lot of sad. I'm carrying sad around like 2 backpacks. What was the news for you that got you to say, I'm not quitting? What happened next?
What happened next was that we had spoken with our doctor, and they let us know that there is a 40% success rate of IVF, which sounds very small to somebody not going through the process, but 40% is way better than a 0% chance or a less than 10% chance that we have doing it on our own.
Yes.
So that helped us stay positive. We had family support and just said, you can't give up. If this is what you guys want, this is what you need to go through to get there.
Did it redouble or triple your energies and desire to be a mom? Did it make you mad enough to be stubborn about it?
100%. And it's hard really now in this day and age being on social media and being at the age that I'm at right now, where a lot of my friends have already had children or are getting pregnant, and every other day you see a post about having a baby or somebody's pregnant again or throwing a baby shower, and it hits you emotionally and you just get so mad about it. And you're not mad about anybody that's posting it because you're so happy for them no matter what, but it hurts, and you want to fight for it, and you want that family.
Yeah. And it's I know that you believe you'd be a great mom, and from all the evidence I've ever seen, you will be. You helped raise, Justin, a younger brother, who, God bless him, at least half a handful. You know what I mean? And you were no picnic. You know what I mean?
No.
So I remember getting a call from your mom once, and this is a little bit delicate, if you don't mind. And I'll stop, and we won't include this if you don't want to, but. It was an eye opener for me, and I was your mom. I know at some point we trust each other, your mom and I was a horrible guy to be married to. I didn't know what it meant, and self-centered and immature, and probably 13 years old emotionally, when I got married. And I just abandoned you guys. About 4 months into it, 3-4 months into it, I was not there. I was gone. I just broke. And I didn't know what else to do. And, a couple of months later was the October 19th gun in the mouth night. And I've been sober ever since. However, I haven't been sane ever since. And I haven't been stable ever since. It took me a lot to get to a point where I could get the train on the track so that I could even have a conversation with you like this. Years later, after like last year, the marriage, or a couple years ago, where Mike and I both got to walk you down the aisle. You're walking down the aisle with two dads, and that made us both. It made me happy. I was probably, I don't know how it made Mike feel, but
Best day of my life.
Well, God bless you for saying that, and Jason. So I want you to know that I have every faith that you'll be a great mom. And whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. Now, what did you do to go about making that happen? Because it's not going to happen naturally. That's the news. So what did you do next?
So from there, it was a long process, a lot of forms that need to be signed, paperwork, lots and lots of paperwork. And we started to endure the in vitro fertilization process. So that starts with an egg retrieval process.
Yeah.
They need to go in and remove as many of my eggs as they can. And in order to prep for that, it's about 10 days of 4 shots a day. Shots as in injections, stimulation medications that are supposed to help your body prep to release as many eggs as you can with good quality.
No
when
kidding.
the time is right.
Okay. So it's like speed for the uterus.
Basically.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot to process, and your body goes
Painful?
through a lot. The shots themselves they're okay. I mean, you get used to it. I've hated needles my entire life, but this has definitely changed my perspective on that. I'm no longer afraid of them. I can do the shots myself in my stomach. So it's taught me that lesson, that I'm tougher than I think, which has been nice.
Wow.
You end up with a lot of bruising, a lot of bleeding. You end up gaining about 10 pounds. It's all part of the process, and your body's just changing constantly.
Most pregnant women would say you got off easy there with the 10 pounds.
For now, but
right?
I haven't even hit the pregnancy part yet.
I know. So then what? What happens next?
So then we go through the egg retrieval surgery. So that's one day scheduled where my doctor will go in, they put me under, and they will remove as many eggs as she can get that are good quality. And from that point, they will combine it with Jason's sperm, and they will create our little petri dish of some embryos.
No kidding.
All of our babies have been created in a science lab.
Yeah. So it's literally a lab baby.
Yes.
It's literally a lab baby. Okay.
Correct.
Right?
And right now we are happy to say that we have 3 healthy embryos. We have 2 boys and a girl. So the next part that we will be working on is a transfer.
Okay. And by transfer, you mean take the eggs and bring them home?
So they'll take the embryo and, they'll transfer it right into my uterus where it needs to go.
All 3 of them?
No, we will only do one at a time because of what happened with the last transfer.
Okay, I was going to get to that. So they put the bun back in the oven.
Correct.
One of them. Which one are you taking? One boy or girl? What are you going to do?
We're going to let them decide for us. So we don't know what they're graded or how strong they are. We asked for them not to tell us. So we will let our doctor decide which one is the healthiest and the strongest, and then we can be surprised.
Okay, so you're going to let kind of the process take over. That's kind of neat. So you could still have a reveal party when it's time. So you said there a real key phrase, what happened last time? Okay, so take me a couple years back. What happens?
So last year, we had done the egg retrieval in April. We got one healthy embryo out of that. Very excited. That's all we thought we needed. It only takes one. So we scheduled our transfer for July. Before the transfer, of course, you get more prep, more injections, more medication, all to get your body ready.
And it was your first time, so you weren't doing it yet to yourself. You weren't. You were still not liking the needles and the shots
No.
and the pain. And how afraid were you?
Very afraid. At that time, one of the needles that you have to do is about 4 inches long, and it has to go in the back side of you, in the top of your muscle.
Oof.
And it's very painful, and I had to rely on Jason for that a lot, and it's just emotionally trying on both of us.
Yeah.
It's a needle that's got to go in every day for about 60 days.
Holy cow, Court. Wow. And so the hope stays up, the pain stays up, the fear stays up, the support stays up. When do you get to, is there any relaxing in that whole process?
No, because the minute you relax, you just never know. You don't know. So after the transfer, there's a 2-week wait. They call it PUPO, P-U-P-O, which is pregnant until proven otherwise. So you have to act like you're pregnant until you actually go for your blood work and everything to confirm that the transfer actually happened and worked correctly. So that did happen for us. We were pregnant, very excited. We were pregnant with a healthy little girl.
Okay.
And the next week when we went in for our ultrasound, we found out that our one embryo had split into 3.
Yeah. I remember that call. Yeah.
Yes. So the third one never really formed into our child. So we were pregnant with twins. We heard both their heartbeats, got to experience all of that. Those were our babies. So that's what we focused on. And 2 weeks later, we went back for another appointment, and this was our 10-week appointment, and we got nothing.
Yeah. And I remember that call too. I believe you called me the same day. And we
were
had a
just
conversation.
So hopeful.
Yes.
You are. And it was just... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you sounded like this. Please tell me what was going on.
It was one of those things that back in April when we found out that we had only had the one embryo, that was our chance to, okay, well, then maybe we're only meant to have the one child. We had found out that our embryo had split into 2. It was incredible. We thought, this is it. This is, all in God's plan. We will now have our 2 children, and that's all we need. And this is great. And hearing the heartbeats and, seeing them on the screen, and you can see the little hearts beating. And it was incredible. It just gave you so much hope and so much excitement for a future of what your family's going to look like. And then the next week or 2 to have it just completely stripped and taken away is just devastating. You just don't even know how to respond.
And the way you responded was what?
Shock. Immediate shock. I made the doctor check and recheck 3 times. Are you sure? Are you sure? You're just in denial. And luckily Jason was there with me. I couldn't imagine right now, especially with everything going on in the world, they don't allow your husband to go into the rooms with you anymore right now. You have to go by yourself because of, COVID-19 and everything.
Right.
I'm so grateful he was there and that we could share that moment together because it was just heartbreaking. We just broke down. The doctor left the room and we sat and cried together for 20 minutes. Yeah.
And you are together, and in the best case scenario, 2 people who make a baby should probably be there for the baby, with the baby, during everything. I mean, it's a partnership. It really is. Years later, Your mom and I are still partners in the Courtney industry, right? And she's talked to me many times about many levels of Courtney's life and vice versa. We've had conversations about the daughter we made. I remember seeing, that picture you were talking about, the two hearts and the two heartbeats. You could see it, right? I remember seeing that photograph of you inside your mom. There's nothing like that. Nothing like that. I can't imagine what it's like to be to have that taken away, and then what, you're supposed to go to work in a couple days. You're supposed to show up and, hey, how's it going? And be happy for somebody else who just had their own kid. I mean, what kind of strength does it take for both of you? Because that's a loss for you and Jason.
It's a loss for both of us. And the thing that I think was the hardest for me was that, my best friend, Katie.
I do.
Very well.
I do.
Found out that we were
Since she
pregnant.
was a little thing.
She was. We found out we were pregnant at the same time. We were due a day apart. And I mean, it was just our dream to be able to have our kids together and raise them together. And when I had lost mine, nothing against her, and I'm so happy for her, but it's been really difficult every step of her pregnancy to just be there to support her, and because everywhere she was is where I should have been, and we should have been.
I don't think even a male, and for a man to say he understands at any level, he's woefully short of understanding. I mean, we can't understand the process of, no offense, but your part is going to be 9 months. It's going to be a shot in the top muscle. It's going to be the IVF. The whole thing is you. Jason's partner was probably a minute and a half about the whole thing. You know what I mean? No offense, Jason. But, Mother's Day is 9 months after Father's Night kind of thing. So, but it's a long time, an investment and process. Female has all the burden and all the grace and all the power and that comes with that. You're the vessel. This is how we get to earth, is through a female. Lab or no lab, right? So I can't imagine that it's easy to watch your best friend go through all this where it's happening naturally, it's occurring in a healthy way, and part of you not say, why me? Or why not me?
Right.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Can you forgive yourself as you go, or is that a word you use?
Yeah, you have to. You have to be able to forgive, and you'll never forget, obviously, but you need to move on. You need to stay positive because it's not over for you yet. There's still more chances, and that's how that's meant to be, and they're okay, and you're going to be okay, and you just have to focus on staying strong and realizing I've gotten through this. It's just going to make me tougher. I know what to expect, and hopefully, the next time's going to work.
What for somebody who's thinking about going through this, or let's say this, because you've arrived at a stage where this is in your rearview mirror, this thing I'm going to ask you about next. You got the news that you can't conceive, make, create naturally. You're going to have a different level of input and chemistry and all that. There's a young lady who just got that news today. What do you want to tell her?
Just know that you're not alone and that you can do this. Stay strong. It's very difficult. It's not going to be an easy road, but there are so many support groups, just as there would be with AA or anything that anybody else deals with. There are support groups to help you through this, and talk about it. Don't be afraid to open up, because you never know who else could be going through it and keeping it to themselves, and you can find a friend through all of it.
Well, I admire your strength and the courage it takes to talk about it. You certainly have passion for wanting to be a mom. Is Jason tired?
Yeah, he's definitely tired. It's just been
Yeah.
a process. He's trying to work as hard as he can through work, and then he comes home and has to deal with an emotional me, with depending on what kind of medications I'm on at the time.
Sure.
And already my hormones are crazy.
And from a male being in a relationship committed to a female who I love, that's occurred for me a few times. But there's a little bit of a helpless feeling for a man, too, because we're not actually going through it. We're just going through it, and we have to know when to shut up and when to weigh in and when to just listen and let you vent and when to say, well, how can I help? Or it's a very awkward place for a guy. We're like, you ever seen that cartoon where Bambi is born?
Yeah.
The legs all spindly and can't find the right footing and flop down and try to stand up. That's kind of husbands at times. I asked I don't think you've ever heard this joke, but I asked your mom, I do a certain thing for a living where, I'm fluent and funny. And sometimes it's not the right language to use, right? I remember asking your mom, when Justin was born, I said to her, and this is how smart I think I am, and then I'm not. All of a sudden, I'm not. I said to your mom, I said, so did you make a better kid the second time? And she goes, no, but I had a better partner. Poke me right in the eye, And we've had many conversations like that. Your dad and I have laughed many, many times about that relationship and how nobody's supposed to get along and everybody's supposed to be proprietary and demanding about it. But when you watch somebody go through what you and Jason have been through, it's pretty hard not to set aside all the little selfish stuff and just root for you like crazy, Jason's a good guy, and I've watched you guys. You guys kind of put each other on a pedestal,
Absolutely.
Some people say, I put her on a
guy.
pedestal. Well, and you wouldn't have chosen otherwise because I know you. You're loyal. You're tremendously honest after you were 17. And there was a whole bunch. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
There's a few stories about when you were younger that they make me laugh right now. I can't even tell you. I remember the first time that I got the call from your mom about sex. Do you remember the story?
Yes.
And it was without being too personal here. I remember you saying to me something that just broke my heart at the time. I said, "Did you want to do this thing?" And you said, "I just wanted him to really like me." And it broke my heart. And I the best I could do as a man who'd been a user of people, a truth teller at times, just like 18 different personalities that I had when I was growing up. I remember thinking, I can help her here. And I said, sometimes, honey, boys will like you longer if you don't do that right away. And you said, how do you know that? And I thought, that's a story for a different day, hon. And you said to me, I promise, Daddy, I'll never have sex ever again. And I had to cover the phone. I was laughing so hard at the time. And I thought, not if you like your mom and dad. Yeah, you won't. And I told Sharon about that later. Even Mike laughed about that later because we don't know until we know that it's not the end. Life's not over. Life's not over because we had a disappointment or we made a mistake. I'm talking about me making a mistake. Or life handed you a circumstance that said, hey, guess what, girlfriend? This ain't going to be the easy way. This is going to be you and your man committed to a process where you might have to do it twice. So is second time a charm?
Hopefully. We're trying to find out.
I know. And I'm rooting for you like crazy. In fact, this is the first time you've told me that you got 2 boys and a girl, or that the eggs were that. So that's the choice. So it's almost like a buffet right now, right?
Right. Because we went through we've been through 3 egg retrievals now to try and get what we needed. And that's what we've got. So now we're working on the transfer part.
So the transfer happens when? We're recording this on May 11th, 2020.
So
this is forever. This right here. This is forever. But
the
when's the transfer?
Is still a secret to most of the family. So we were trying to keep that under wraps. But we do have a date.
Okay, you do have a date, and so most of the family, you mean me?
No, not most of the family.
Okay, what? Okay, so that didn't come out right no matter how you said it. I was going to lose there. So your spirits are up, and so far this time, it's good news, right?
So
It's
far,
you've done-
everything right now is great news. It's going as planned, and
So because you're a human being, is there a part of either of you and Jason, you know what I'm going to ask you, right? Because you're a human being, is there a part of you that goes, yeah, but right, we've seen this part of the movie before.
absolutely,
So
you can't.
how are you
There's no way that we're going to feel comfortable and safe and secure until that baby is in our arms.
Right.
There's just the whole process of it. It doesn't matter how far. Every point will be a step that we're excited about and can celebrate. But until we physically have that child in our arms, you're never going to feel safe or secure.
No, and no one on earth can say they understand what you're going through unless they've been through that. That's a
Exactly.
fair statement. So, but you have each other. You got Jason. You got great faith. I know that about you. You got parents who are loving you and supporting you from all sides. You got that Nordic herd of blonde family all over the place, and your friends, even the Hansons, for God's sakes, they're not even related to you. It's blonde and female. It's like a movie. It's crazy. It makes me laugh every time I see you guys on social media. I think there's about 400 women in that picture.
Yeah,
Where
we've
are
got
the guys?
Katie, my one brunette best friend. That's it.
Yeah.
Every blonde needs a brunette.
Yeah. Katie's like the token brown chick. You know what I mean? It's really fun to watch you thrive, though. I got to say this, that your job, you've had a lot of success in your life. I mean, you were on a national champion dance team in college 2 years in a row. You graduated. You graduated again. You picked a really good husband, right? If you don't want kids over 5'5". You guys did a good job. You guys did a good job. You're doing a great job. What kind of message do you want to send to the families of the people who have been through this? And maybe it either hasn't gone well or it's not going well yet. It's in the early stages, the ooh, what the hell stage, right? What do you want to tell the families?
Just be as supportive as you can. Try and do your research. Ask questions. If the couple doesn't want to talk about it, respect that. Don't keep butting into it or asking. And if they want to keep some of it a secret from you, or just keep it between themselves until you can get farther along or until they feel comfortable, just be there to support. That's all you can ask and all you can do, because it's a really difficult process. And luckily, I have a great family. Like we've mentioned, we have a great family and can talk about that and feel comfortable opening up to everybody. And if you're going to want to tell them about this process, only tell the people, I feel, that are going to support you when tragedy happens or when disappointment happens. Feel comfortable being able to tell them that part of the process too.
Yes. Well said. Okay, so I ask this question of every guest, always. 5 years from now, in a perfect world, where are you and what are you doing?
5 years from now, I hope that we are moved out of our condo and into our house, and that we have the one, maybe two babies running around, and that we've got our family that we've always hoped for, and that we're still successful in our jobs and just loving life.
Awesome. Well, I want to say happy birthday to you. Happy 32. Thanks for
Thank
saving my
you.
life way back in the day. And what you did today was phenomenal, not just for you and your process, but for the people who automatically said, oh my gosh, me too, lady, or me too. You know what I mean?
Well,
Great
thanks
job.
for
I love
opening
you a
up
lot.
and talking about it.
Yeah, no problem, lady. I love you a lot.
I love you too.
Thanks for today.
Thank you.
Bye, honey. Happy birthday.
Bye. Thank you.
Wow, right? Seriously? Okay. So all that nice little wrapping paper to hand you this. Present for you. Shortcut. Different precedes better. Just one lane of that. I know you can filter this and noodle this and digest this for yourselves, but different precedes better. I'm a different dad than I had. My daughter has a better chance of being a full grown-up than her dad did. Because I forgave my parents, I didn't become my parents to raise a kid that's going to be parenting like they were parented. Now, if you're a weed smoker, I'll slow down. Shortcut, different precedes better. Sometimes all you got to do is do it different, and it's going to turn out better. That's the plan. I'm going to have a different way to speak to my kids. I'm going to have a different way to support them. You know, it turns out that children need to be seen and heard by God. So, you want to parent the way you were parented, if it works for you, cool. But if you don't, different precedes better. And as always, grateful never relapses. Grateful never fails. Grateful never disappoints. I cannot tell you how grateful I was to have this conversation with a kid who I only used to know in a picture. That was a huge deal for me today. A huge deal. Grateful never relapses. I can't tell you. I can't even keep it in. That's how grateful I was this whole conversation. And I've had 100 of those conversations without you guys watching. Today, I'm glad you were. It's a big deal to be grateful about something that we're doing differently than we were taught. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on. I really enjoyed you guys today. And as always, hashtag be first. If you don't see some, be some. Hope, pride, peace, love, commitment. If you don't see some out there, be some out there. Thanks again. Later.